Hi there, Telebait here, and this week I've got the best deck for anyone new to Runeterra. I'm going to be taking one of the free starter decks and showing you how to turn this into a very viable deck up into the highest ranks. Out of the free starter decks you get, it's pretty much agreed that the Darius Elise deck is the strongest deck, and it's the only champion combination that you get at the start which has actually been in the meta at some point. And in this video I'm going to show you how to make tweaks with this deck to turn it into a very strong and viable spider aggro deck. On this account I've played about 10 games over the course of a week, and we're going to use the very few resources I can to help improve this deck a lot. The aim with this deck is to create a very aggressive spider aggro deck, and then you can use some burn cards that deal damage directly to your opponent's nexus to finish them off, and you even have big finishers like Darius and Farron to help close out the games. And aggro decks like this are great for beginners because they keep game time down, which is really important, especially when you don't have much time to play. You want to be able to climb the ranks quickly, and most importantly, you want to get lots of experience quickly, and because the experience is the same regardless of game time, lots of quick games mean you get more experience, which is better for getting cards faster. One thing you'll note is I do not use shards on rare or common cards. I always save these for epic and champion cards, and that's because later on you'll find you get a lot of rare and common wild cards, so you should just use your wild cards on those and save your shards for your epic and champions. Also, you won't get the exact cards I get, so you'll need to use some of your own intuition to work out whether the card fits in with this deck or not. Generally with this deck you're looking for a lot of low cost units that have a way of dealing damage directly to your opponent's nexus, so keywords such as elusive, fearsome, overwhelm, or just effects which deal damage to the opponent's nexus are all great in this deck. In terms of a priority of what to craft first, you're probably looking for a lot of your early drops to help the curve out a lot, and these would be Precious Pet, Legion Saboteur, and House Spider. And also I'd put a lot of priority on getting Glimpse Beyond, as this is an important draw engine in the deck. And basically, your main aim with this card is when they use a removal card on one of your units, you use it on that unit, and that way you can turn your opponent's removal into draw. And after you've got these, I'll then focus on getting the rest of the spider cards, so this would be Frenzy Skitterer, and another Elise if you happen to get enough shards, or are able to get a champion wildcard by luck. The remaining cards aren't as important, so you can kind of go about them and get them in any order you like. After a week playing, this is the deck I ended up with, and it still could be improved, but it's been undefeated for me in the low ranks anyway, so it shows you that it's still a very strong deck, even though it's not ideal. Ideally, when you're finished building this deck, your deck will look something like this. I've focused a lot on the fearsome keyword and spiders in this version, which I think is a strong way to go. You'll notice I've only got 2 of each champion as well, and that's because I'm assuming you're not going to be able to get many champion wildcards early on, so I've built a deck using existing champions you have anyway. So let's get into some games so you can see how the deck works in action. So for this first game, we're up against Elise and Zoe, which is quite a meta deck, and requires quite a lot of resources. Kind of surprised to see it. Looking at hand, we just want to keep our early drops, which can do a lot of damage. So Precious Pet is really strong early because of the fearsome keyword, and Reckless Trifarian allows you to get really good trades because he's got a big stat but has the downside that you can't block. But we're an aggressive deck, so we don't really care about the fact that you can't block. He plays Zoe, and there's not much we can do to stop it. We can use Vile Feast on turn 2 to kill Zoe, but he's going to get this attack in. Turn 2, we could attack straight away, but for 2 mana, there's not many units he can play with free attack. The only one really is Mountain Goat, and if he plays Mountain Goat, we're happy to trade our 2-1 into his Mountain Goat. So playing Elise here is okay. If he doesn't have Mountain Goat, we're then going to get 5 damage off, which is insane. So that's why it's important to develop here. He doesn't have it.
From the darkness.
This turn we Vile Feast Zoe. He could possibly keep it alive with various spells, but if he spends all of his mana this turn keeping it alive, we then get another good attack next turn, so I'm very happy with that.
We must all make sacrifices.
And he does that, and Elise is going to level up. Oh, and he surrenders. We're going to get Elise leveled up on turn 4, and he instantly surrenders. So,
Now we think.
well, I guess GG. On to the next game. For this game, we're up against a champions list deck, so I'm not really sure what to expect. Going from our hand, because we've already got a 2-drop in our hand in Elise, which is better than Runeweaver, it's worth throwing the Runeweaver away. Turn 1, we draw Precious Pet, which is insane. Precious Pet is the card you want to see turn 1 all the time. Just because he can get in this 2 damage really easily. Very few 1-cost units have 3 attacks, so Fearsome usually gets an attack straight in on your opponent's Nexus. And my opponent uses Stalking Shadows this turn, which is great. This is something I've seen quite a lot of in lower ranks, which is where my opponent will use spells when they don't need to. Like, that's a burst speed spell. He doesn't need to burn his whole mana this turn. He could just pass and then do it at any time, because that 2 mana is going to become spell mana.
There's nothing to fear.
Here, for 3 mana, he could play something with 3 attack, which could block, and we're getting in a lot of damage here, so I'm quite happy just to attack him with all the spiders.
Bite.
Please, I have connections.
So young.
And he uses up all his mana, so we're very safe to play House Spider, and this will level up Elise at the end of the turn. It's important to wait out your opponent's mana before you commit to big plays like this. I didn't want to commit to the Elise level up until my opponent had no mana, because then I knew he had no way to stop it. If he even had like 2 mana, he could Vile Feast one of my units, which would stop the Elise level up, and then maybe another line of play would have been the better play.
The order rewards its faithful.
For the hand.
Here, I'm just developing my units. We're going to let him attack in. There's not much point blocking.
They cannot hide.
And he attacks in with his elusive unit, so we can't block.
Master.
So on this attack, we attack here because we got full board, so we can't really develop any further. So usually with these Fearsome Spiders, because he doesn't have any Fearsome blockers, we would usually not hook anything. But because I have this 5/4 and 3/1, which can be blocked by any of his units, it's worth using the Challenger effect from my spiders to stop him from blocking those units, which will do more damage to his Nexus. So here I'm very happy with how I set up to attack. There might be a small argument that I should have hooked his 1/1 spider in with my 2/1 spider. That way I'll get more damage in, but I don't see a situation where 4 damage from Elise over 2 damage from the smaller spider makes a difference. Here he would be on 7 health, which is still out of all my spells range. And here I use Black Spear. It requires a unit to die to use it, and it's activated now, so I'll be using it while I can. And I want to keep his board as thin as possible. We've got a really wide board here, which is what this deck aims to do. You get a really wide board, and then you attack in with everything, so your opponent can't block everything.
Heard you're new in the area.
Here, we're not really under threat. I'm using Decimate just to make use of my mana. One thing to note is I waited until he was under 4 mana to use the Decimate, because I didn't want him to use Deny to stop it.
My friend and I are toll collectors. Quietly now.
So he attacks him with his elusive unit here. And here there's a tough decision to make of, do we play Darius? Because Darius will have Overwhelm and 10 attack, which will pretty much guarantee the kill. But if we play Darius, he could use something like Vengeance. But if he uses Vengeance, that uses up all his mana, and he can't do anything else. And therefore, if he does that, we can just attack him with our spiders and win. So this is a good play because his only good response to it is also losing. And here we just attack him with everything. One thing to note is I attack with the units which he can block on the right, because Ione has a card which grants lifesteal called Spirit's Refuge, and we don't want him to use that on one of his units before we get the damage in from our spider units. And here we go, we can't stop us. And that's GG. So on to this final game here. We're against Fiora Garen deck. And Fiora is something which is really, really good against this deck because we run a lot of small units which are easy for Fiora to kill, and she wins the game once Fiora has killed 4 units. But I'll show you how I play this so you get a good idea. Generally, you still just go in with the full aggro game plan. So he drops his Eagle, we'll drop our 2-1. We don't want to block here because it's all about getting as much damage in as possible. We don't care about the damage he does to us. What we want to do is get damage into him. For 2 mana, the only unit we're really scared of is Bright Steel Protector. But even then, he can't block with his 2-1, and the Bright Steel Protector will take a bad trade into our 2-1s. So playing the Precious Pet here is great, and we get 4 damage in. So he plays the Fiora here, which is pretty nasty. And really, there aren't many good options for us to play, because we could play the Arachnoid Sentry to stun Fiora, but then he gets a good trade with his Eagle onto our Arachnoid Sentry. So there's not much we can do to stop the Fiora getting 1 tick towards her win condition here.
Strike quickly. On down.
But my main aim here is not to play too many weak units so he doesn't get easy kills. Make it so he always has to commit something big. And we get Black Spear here. Black Spear is really great. This is one of the ways we can kill his Fiora and stop his Fiora win condition. I'm just playing the rear guard as another unit to attack in with. And he doesn't play anything on his chance. So I'm just going to stun Fiora to try and get in even more damage here. He plays the Grizzled Ranger, but I'm happy with him trading that into any of my units, so I just attack with everything. It's all about getting as much damage in as possible, so you really want to attack with everything as much as you can. He probably needs to commit something to protect Fiora, and then when he does that, we can use Black Spear to kill the Fiora, and as soon as the Fiora is dead, I feel we're in a fairly comfortable position to win this game. I'm playing the Rune Weave instead of the House Spiders here, just because the House Spiders only have 2 and 1 attack, and therefore any buff he has can keep Fiora alive. Whereas if we're playing these 3 attack units, he has to commit something big like Riposte. And there's the Riposte.
Counter and strike.
And one thing to note is I do not block here because I want to get as many attacks in as possible. So if I attack in, although I'm taking 6 damage from his Badger's Bears this turn, if I attack in with everything next turn, I will be doing 3 damage to his Nexus, which he can't stop. We get Darius here, which is great. So I think we just play the Darius straight down. There's no reason not to. something like Concerted Strike could kill the Darius, but then he uses his whole turn on killing Darius, and we're quite happy with that.
You're covered.
So he plays Bright Steel Protector, and he could have something like another Riposte in hand, and if he uses a Riposte on any of his units, he can trade it into Darius. But even still, even if he does that, Darius will be doing 6 damage to his Nexus. Plus, we would be getting another 3 damage from one of our other units, which would bring him down to 1 health. I'm quite happy. If he's willing to use Riposte to kill my Darius, I'm quite happy to trade in the rest of my units and bring him down to 1 health. And therefore, any card I have in my deck which does 1 damage to his Nexus will win me the game. Especially considering he's a mono Demacia, and Demacia doesn't have any forms of healing.
Shield up.
So he does go for the Riposte play. A slight misplay actually, because he could have kept his Badger Bears both on 4 health. Probably not a big deal. And we draw the Decimate here, so we're going to win. Even if we didn't draw the Decimate, what I would have done was just play the House Spiders, and that would give us enough blockers and a wide enough board that we'd be able to get that 1 damage in anyway. So the Decimate was a lucky top deck, but I think we had the game anyway. And that's it. That's how the deck works. You just aggressively attack your opponent. It's a fairly easy deck, and definitely the deck you should aim for if you're just starting out in this game. Hopefully you found this video useful, and it can help you get off to a great start in this game. I love this game, and it's definitely a bit rough at the start when you don't have many resources. But hopefully this can help you get over that initial hurdle, and then once you get all the resources, you can start crafting and having fun with all the different decks of this game. The game chucks cards at you after you've played a little bit, so just get past that initial hurdle and you'll be fine. And if you want my general tips on card collection, definitely check out my collection guide video. I'll put the link in the top right. And if you found this video useful, please leave a like and subscribe. Until next time, thanks for watching and have a good day.